Welcome back to Arkansas First Reports. I'm your host, Kandi Cox, and today we're bringing you an important Capitol update as we wrap up week 5 of the 95th General Assembly. Joining me today is Clint Lancaster with Arkansas First. Clint, thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me, Kandi. It's been a couple of weeks since I was on the show, so I'm happy to be back and lend whatever insight you may desire. You're one of the few people who ask me what my opinion is these days.
Well, if you don't know, Clint is getting very popular with his kitty barf articles,
right.
and so you just put out a new one this week.
Yes, and so there had been a kind of got very busy, and so I was not able to keep up with as much kitty barf. But fortunately, the General Assembly just gives me so much to work with.
A lot.
That's right. Actually, in fact, kitty barf 8 is in the queue. So.
Yeah. Well, let's get straight to it because we have a lot to cover. Usually on our Capitol review, we're talking about several bills that several legislators are proposing, but today we're going to hone in on several bills that are kind of wrapped up in one package with one legislator. That's right.
Yeah, so I don't know what Kim Hammer thinks, right? I mean, somewhere along the lines, he's strayed from, and I don't understand how this certain senator calls himself a Republican when he advocates for things that are clearly against the Republican Party's platform.
Right. Right. Against the Republican Party, against conservative values, against our constitutional rights.
Yeah, it's a remarkable day in Arkansas when Senator Clark Tucker sounds more conservative than a Republican.
Yes,
And so,
I agree. Well, so these bills we're focusing on SB 207 through SB 212, right? So just this, it's all like a package of bills. So let's just kind of tip it off one by one. SB 207 essentially sets the tone for making the petition process more intimidating.
So I'll say this. I think that all of these bills are a product of this incredibly cunning, good-looking, smart lawyer who found a way to work through some laws to get paper ballots on the ballot in Independence and Cleveland County. I mean, that's what this is. And we'll start with 207, which wants to make it a fraudulent, a crime to do any type of petition altering or things of that nature. All of these bills are designed to chill your ability to self-legislate.
Right. In 208, this one involves requiring photo IDs for anyone signing a petition.
Yeah, so this is just dumb. I mean, right? Like, so you're standing outside. So we've all been approached by
Right,
canvassers,
right.
right? I can think of, trying to go into what I call a little Kroger here in Benton, Arkansas, and being stopped in the parking lot by a canvasser who I've never seen before, who I don't know, who's asking me to sign something and now wants to see my ID. I'm like,
Right.
no, I'm just like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
no.
I'm not showing my ID to
Yeah,
this
it seems,
anybody. Yeah.
so should my ability to be able to have free speech be restricted to an ID? I mean, I'm all about having an ID in two situations, okay? Getting on a plane, okay, and voting. But absent that, this isn't voting. This is saying that I'm okay with this being on the ballot, and we should err on the side of lax for getting it on the ballot and err on the side of extra security for voting for that measure.
That's right.
The provisions.
Isn't this ironic, though, that we want an ID to sign a petition, but not an ID to vote?
Well, yeah, that is crazy. It's super crazy. In some places, I just don't get, I don't get the rationale behind this other than what we're going to do. And what we saw David Ray proposed yesterday was 2 constitutional amendments, which would continue to gut Article 5, Section 1, which is the self-legislation clause of the Constitution.
Right.
So, I mean, it's clear that the agenda here is to make it to where the people can't legislate anymore. I would rather they just say, hey, let's just repeal Article 5, Section 1 altogether, as opposed to like nitpicking it to death.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, so SB 209 takes this whole process even further by giving the Secretary of State new powers to disqualify signatures.
It's almost like a justification to keep doing what they're doing
Mhm.
because they're always looking for some type of way to not count signatures, right? This person, I can't read it. I don't know, whatever. They're always looking for ways. And so now they just kind of gave the Secretary of State a green light to just say, okay, whatever you think goes. Ultimately, I think this is, again, a dumb law, but I'm not too concerned about this one, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
The Arkansas Supreme Court has said that it is their job to determine if there are sufficient signatures and if it's misleading or anything like that. In a way, I don't really care what the Secretary of State says. Having attempted to run a statewide ballot measure and run a number of them through several counties on the county level, the sooner I can get through people like the Secretary of State or the county clerks and get to a court, because that's where the rubber meets the road.
Right.
I mean, that's where it happens right there. The court's going to make the final determination. And as we saw in the Independence County case, which I believe Tracy Norris or Tracy something versus Brian Norris, where we got it on the ballot in Independence County and it passed, the court was very, very clear about the right of the people to self-legislate. They're not going to chill that. So I question whether some of these are constitutional, but this particular bill is not one that I have concerns about.
Okay. So then we go to SB 210, which adds another hurdle by requiring voters to read the ballot title before signing it.
So I have a real problem with this one. Okay.
Yes.
I watched the Senate committee meeting where this Baptist preacher's wife came on there and said she's in support of this bill because she was outside the local Piggly Wiggly or wherever she was when she was approached by a canvasser who told her that she was signing a deal about women's health when it was really abortion. And apparently, now here's what I think, right? This is in Warren, Arkansas. Now, I don't know if you've been to Warren, the tomato capital of Arkansas,
Right.
but it's not a big town and people tend to know each other. So I'm looking at this woman and I'm like, so you got approached by someone you've never seen before who told you something that you didn't verify and you signed it and you're upset because you didn't read it. I go back to the words of the great Bill Engvall. If you would just wear a sign that says you're stupid, then I would know I have to read it to you.
Right.
But I shouldn't be presuming that everybody is stupid. And welcome to the nanny state, right? We're going to read this to you or make you read it to protect you from your own stupidity. My opinion is, ma'am, if you sign that without reading it with someone you didn't know, then that's your fault.
Right.
That's your fault for being stupid. I hope you learned a lesson. But don't punish everybody else in the state because the preacher's wife is too dumb to read the thing herself before she signs it. I sound passionate.
Well, I just, I go, who's going to stand there and allow someone to read? I mean, some of these ballot titles are so long.
Oh, yeah.
I think the one on the abortion was a whole page.
So Leslie Bellamy, who, we're not always on the same page, but sometimes we are, right? She was, we were on the same page when I was before joint performance review testifying. She said it takes her 8 minutes to read some of them. Okay. So I'm going to approach you in the Kroger parking lot on a hot summer day while it's burning hot and I got my ice cream in the buggy and you want me to stop and let you read this to me for 8 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. It's just not going to. So that is clearly designed. Now, my ballot titles are short. Like I think mine was like maybe a quarter of a page.
Right.
Let's get to the point here. But yeah, no, that's not gonna. This is ridiculous.
Well, and it seems like these bills just keep getting worse the more that we go on.
Yeah.
You go to SB 211 and it introduces a mandatory affidavit for canvassers, right? And I know you've probably got a lot to say about that one.
Well, again, I just wish that Senator Hammer would amend these bills to call these the Anti-Clint Lancaster Act, because what he's doing is he's trying to make sure that these affidavits can't be changed, can't be modified, can't be touched. And it's and it doesn't come to the end, right?
Right.
And so what happens if your canvassers, and so out-of-state canvassers, right? They're prohibited. What the assembly's upset about is that I moved in some out-of-state canvassers and put them in a hotel in Conway where they resided and where the Supreme Court has already said you can reside in a hotel.
Right.
I mean, I resided in a hotel in New Berlin, Wisconsin for about 3 or 4 or 5 months when I worked for the special counsel. So I made them residents, and that's what upset them. So now, if you think about it this way, your out-of-state canvasser comes in and resides in Arkansas, right? They fill out everything and they head out, right? If they've already headed out before they've signed this affidavit, every single signature is gone.
Right.
And that was the big key takeaway that I think a lot of people other than Clark Tucker understood, was that you're going to invalidate 2,000 signatures because 10 of them have a problem. That's not what the Supreme Court has said, but hey, go ahead, kitty, legislate away.
That's right. That's right. So on 212, this creates the document validity division.
Oh my gosh. You know what? When I was a kid, I grew up thinking what I really want to do is be an investigator for the document validity division. Right? Oh my gosh, I aspire to such great things. Like, that sounds like incredibly boring, number one.
Right.
Number two, for them to be a law enforcement agency, you got to have certified officers. Okay. If they're going to carry guns and enforce laws, that's minimum. It used to be 12 weeks in Camden or Black River Tech, doing the police academy. And so we're going to have people going to Camden on the state's dime, right? Living there, getting trained so they can investigate the validity of documents. What does that even mean?
Right.
What does that mean? And so, no, this is I call this the Gestapo after the Gestapo. I just take
Right.
the first three and change out SOS, because this is like really a secret police, right? This is what that is really coming down to, is we want to have our own division, do our own investigation. And I think it's beyond ironic that the legislature proposing this secret police is the very guy who considers himself the head of the Election Integrity Caucus and is running for Secretary of State.
That was going to be my next thing. Where do you feel like all of this came from?
Well, I feel like this came from, what happened in Independence County and what happened in Cleveland County, the joint performance review interrogation back in October. They were upset. They were upset because the canvassers, there was a change on the canvasser's affidavit, and they all wanted to know who changed it. And I'm like, why don't you ask them? Right? Why don't you just call? Why are you asking me? Well, ask them. And so they're like, oh, this is ballot fraud. This is petition fraud. I'm like, actually, there's nothing fraudulent about it. They marked through something and changed something. What's fraudulent about that? If you make a mistake, you get to do that.
Right.
And in fact, David Ray wants to take away the ability to correct a petition after it's been determined sufficient or insufficient. That was filed late yesterday as constitutional amendments. But that's what the law currently said you could do. So they're all upset about who did it. And,
one of this was on an address, like on an address where the canvasser
yeah.
was, right? And so you're an attorney, Clint. If you have a legal document and someone's signing it, and let's say their address is wrong on this legal document, they can cross it out, one line, and initial, correct?
Correct.
And now they're saying we can't do that.
Well, they're saying that's fraud.
Yeah,
that's fraud.
Right.
And what I'm like, no, there's nothing fraudulent about it. I made this argument, and I actually, for the first time in like 14 years, the Arkansas Supreme Court has decided they do want to hear from me. So they granted oral arguments in the Cleveland County case over the issue of residency and domicile. That's scheduled for March 20th.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but that's what happened. Well, literally, they put their domicile address down, which it's complicated. You can only have one domicile.
Right.
That one, and my favorite quote is from a court that said, by domicile, we mean home, the place that you call home. And if you don't understand what your home is, there is nothing we can say or do to help you understand that.
Right.
All right. So I consider my home to be Arkansas. Now, I love to reside in Florida.
Yeah, especially right now.
Right. So, I mean, but people have let's take, some celebrity got divorced. That was Kevin Costner and his wife. Like, they're fighting over their residences in Colorado, in Hawaii, in California. They can only have one domicile, but they can have multiple residences.
Right.
And so a resident is a very transient notion. Like, when I went to Colorado over Christmas and I resided in a hotel room for a week or so.
Right.
That's the place I came and went. I compare it to the construction out here in Saline County's interstate. Those were a lot of out-of-state workers residing in a hotel where they got up every morning and went to work and came back. Now, on the weekends, they went to their domicile.
Right.
But they had a problem with that. They thought that what one, I think it was Representative Vaught said, was that violates the spirit of the laws. Well, ma'am, laws don't have spirits. They have words.
Right.
And you'd put the wrong words in there. It's not my fault. So this is what this is. It is to change it. It's to have its own secret police force. I compare this a lot. What you're going to see is like the presidential electors from 2020, right? You had a bunch of people file or submit an alternate slate of electors, which is perfectly legal. It's been happening since the Civil War, since Reconstruction. But yet they have they're saying that it was fraud for them to do that. And now if I approached you and it's like, hey, Trump really won, but I need you to sign to be an alternate elector. Are you going to do that after they convict you of crimes and everybody else? No.
Right.
So nobody would do it. So what's going to happen is that these people will go out and do canvassers. They'll prosecute the snot out of them and nobody will be willing to canvass.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to. That is like putting ice in your sweet tea. It's going to chill it.
Right. Yeah. So this all passed out of committee this week, right?
And passed the Senate.
And
well, so 212 didn't.
Okay.
So the one about the Sostapo did not pass.
Yes.
All the others passed out of committee after they cut off the ability of the people. That's Kitty. Here's your preview. That's Kitty Barf 8.
Yes.
Right. And Kitty doesn't have the time. It's called the way of the kitty. We don't have no need to hear from the people. But they had a bunch of people signed up to speak on the bill, but the Senate committee decided that what they had to say wasn't important because they'd already decided what they were going to do in their closed door caucus.
Right.
And so they voted to end debate, passed it out of committee, and then yesterday I watched as Senator Hammer got him out off the Senate floor, with the most vocal critic being Senator Clark Tucker.
Right.
I mean, I texted Clark, and I'll tell you, I texted him, I said, "You're the most intelligent Democrat I've ever met." And I honestly mean that. I mean, there's only one Democrat I like in Arkansas, and that's him.
Right.
He was carrying the water for the conservatives.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell our listeners, what do they do now? How can they get involved, and what do they do hearing this? I'm sure that this is making many people angry.
I think so. I mean, so the House is a different monster,
right?
But not that different. But what I would encourage you to do is it's going to go to House committee. Show up, sign up to speak, tell them what you think, tell them why you don't want it, and then call and just basically hound your legislators. As Representative Tony Furman told me the one time, the worst thing a legislator can ever do is tell a lobbyist that they haven't decided yet. Okay, can I? So, but that incessant hounding, and a lot of people on the floor of the Senate, the senator said, "I've heard nothing but negative about this." But that caucus had made up its mind, in that closed door caucus, about what they were going to do, and the fix was in. It was in the bag already. And even you saw, geez, you want to see the erosion. Jimmy Hickey, who is not the most conservative of senators, who really, I think, is a Democrat, even he was like, I got a problem with some of these.
Right.
And so it starts to erode and fall apart. It can die in the House. And if it doesn't die in the House, then you might as well consider yourself one of those states that does not have the ability to do a self-directed democracy.
Exactly. And so do we have the agenda of when this might be going to the House?
It got transmitted yesterday. I haven't seen it yet. I also haven't looked. I checked just a little while ago. The Senate was in committee, or the Senate was convened in the morning at 10 a.m. Bart Hester was being very not nice to Senator Clint Penzo over something. So I don't know, but you can check the Arkansas legislators website. You can go and search the bills. There's a bar up there. You just put in like SB 212 and it'll pull up that bill's history, where it's at, where it's going, and what's going on.
That's right. And you can catch updates on Arkansas First Facebook page and follow us there on all of our accounts on X, and also go to arkansasfirst.com, Arkansas 1ST. And that's one of the things that I love about Arkansas First, Clint, is we are keeping our constituents and our people engaged and informed. And yesterday at the Capitol, and when I say yesterday, I mean Wednesday when we do our Capitol Live, Jimmy took over the reins while I went and testified on a bill, and he had Joey McCutcheon in there talking about this, who is very passionate about these sets of bills. So Arkansas First is getting the information out to our people to get involved.
And I'm watching when I can. I don't know if you've seen the What the Duck article yet.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, literally, the debate was like watching children talk about something ridiculous. I was literally like, a duck is not a bird? Like, I missed that. I was out there. You know what cracked me up was the representative who said a duck is distinguishable from a bird was a guy named R.J. Hawk.
Yeah.
Now, with a name like that, you'd think he would know. But yeah, it's some of the stuff that goes on there is rather comical.
Right.
And I just, if you just don't want to watch the like free entertainment and you want to read about it, please check out Arkansas 1ST.
Yes. ArkansasFirst.com. Thank you for joining us today on our Capitol Review. Stay tuned for more coverage and updates on the issues that matter most. Until next time, stay informed, stay involved, and stay Arkansas strong.
Thank you, Kandi.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anything else you need from me?
No, not at all. I'm trying to do these like 15, 20-minute updates at the Capitol so that, I told Jennifer, I said, if we get out there, like this little segment of a recap of the Capitol to keep them involved. So thank you for coming.
No, I'm glad. I'm lucky. I was fortunate to be able to.
And that's when he texted me, I was like, well, Clint knows this inside out. I hope he can swing over and make it.
I was glad I can make it. So anytime you need something, let me know.
Thank you.
I'll keep watching and writing, and I can't believe it.
Like, this is what my tax all about. Well, see, I say, like, we're debating about whether a duck is a bird. The hell with the starving children. That's right. You know?
Thank you so much. Yes, sir. You too.
Hey, how's it going? Are you doing well? Okie dokie. Let me go ahead and get these cameras. Try and spawn.
So, in the one that I did